Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of Let's Talk Trackmania. And this one, you guessed it from the title, it is pretty much the Trackmania Awards 2019 special, because we felt like talking about that. Anyways, I'm Thomas Mengozi, aka GGeek, and accompanying me yet once again tonight are Eirik, Holdal, and Holdal, aka Scottie. Good evening, gentlemen. How's your day been so far? Yeah.
Ready to go. There's actually the sun outside, as you can probably see, but yeah, looking forward to this episode.
You are my son, Scottie.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. We're all pretty tired because unfortunately, what you were doing in your introduction, I completely forgot that there was no audio on both your
Useless.
Useless. Bullshit already. This is gonna be a fun one. We're all pretty tired. Yeah, it's fixed, guys. So,
yeah, no matter. It was just an awkward intro. So.
Yeah, pretty awkward intro because you could see they could try to read on your lips, but yeah, they didn't have any audio, so it was basically up to the viewers' comprehension to do the work. But yeah, TM Awards 2019. Now we've got a few things we want to talk about. First of all, who we feel who we voted for and who we feel should have won. We got some pretty strong opinions regarding some of the categories. Also, what's coming up next for the future of the Trackmania Awards 2019. Please excuse my phone. And also, we are going to try to potentially make some predictions about who will win what awards in TM 2019. Although we're not really fixed with the amount of awards, I should say, for next year, although that's something we'll discuss a little bit later. We could still take a little bit of a shot in the dark. So, why don't we get started? Which category do you feel would have deserved a different winner?
Scottie, you go first.
Yeah.
Oh, you're throwing me straight in at the deep end.
Throwing you under the bus. Let's get it started.
Right, so one thing I'm going to say, maybe not should have had a different winner, but I was surprised at how much percentage the leading one had was the online event of the year. So for those not familiar with the online event of the year, there was 4 nominees. There was ANC Cup number 3, there was From Zero to Hero, there was a 24-hour race, and there was the Kakiest Kaki. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys would, well, at least Geek and Eirik would have heard my kind of thoughts on this, but my main kind of look into why I thought Kakiest Kaki shouldn't have been the online event of the year is simply looking at it. I feel that a lot of people voted for that, where it was kind of the trendy event of the late stage of 2019. It was the event that was on a lot of people's lips kind of going into this, and it was the event that a lot of people seen as it was coming into it, with the likes of Spam and Virtual spending a lot of time, and a lot of your other Trackmania personalities spending a lot of time on that. So I think the other events didn't really get a kind of fair shot at it, so to speak. But I suppose that's a kind of theme which I've got maybe to bring up about a few other awards going forward. But maybe Kakiest Kaki should have won anyway, but I don't think they should have kind of blown away the competition, in my opinion.
And that's also the category I disagree the most with. I don't know if it feels just because I don't really follow Kakiest Kaki, but from my understanding it was basically the 4th edition of something that's already been hosted 3 times before, but the 3 other times it didn't get a lot of attention besides within that really small community. But now Spam streamed it, now Virtual is getting a popular streamer, now Riolo streamed it, so now it got sort of hype from just watching it. But if you just look at from what other things it brought to the game, I couldn't see any changes from the other previous editions, as far as I know at least. But my winner is an event that didn't even get nominated. My winner from it would be Trackmania Grand League's group stage. Everything was hosted online, 10 steps. We had a lot of change and it was the first official tournament hosted from Ubisoft Nadeo. So, I mean, that is the award I disagree the most about. So, but I don't know. In the end, it's a community vote, so I understand why it got voted, because you had all the big streamers streaming it. You had, like Scottie mentioned, the hype being in the later part of the year. So that's the bad thing about having voting at the end of the year. But I don't know. What do you feel about this, Geek? Do you have a strong opinion about it?
Well, to be fair, I don't really have much opinions about many of the categories for one simple reason. It's because I wasn't that active, at least in the stadium space, in 2019. I was really focused on like real life, trying to finish my bachelor's degree in web development, for those of you wondering what I tried to do in real life. And yeah, didn't pick up the game back, except for Canyon, where I was active towards the middle of the year, and that will be correlating to the Canyon Player of the Year award, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. But for Stadium, I wasn't really all that active. And yeah, it's a bit of an awkward situation for me being called to do the presentation and the reveal of the nominees and the winners for the 2019 awards when I didn't really follow 2019 that much. So yeah, that's a bit of that was a bit awkward in retrospect, but still I was really happy to do it. But that basically leads me to probably my only really strong opinion on the TM Awards concerning Canyon Player of the Year. Now, don't get me wrong, Riolu is a fantastic guy, and he is possibly the best all-around player in Trackmania, flat out. Like, he can do it all. Like Stadium, Canyon, Valley, Lagoon. He can do it also in the Trackmania United environments, Island, Coast, you name it. He's really good. But I don't necessarily agree with how much of a margin he had as the victor in the Canyon Player of the Year award. For a quick comparison, you've got all four nominees, which were Riolu, Mebe12, Cloud, and Suram. And Riolu won with over 50% of the votes, which is over half of what Mebe even had. He had 22.46% Mebe, whereas Riolu had 54.45. But when you look at the results, I feel like Riolu he would have been a huge contender for sure. I mean, he won SCL Canyon Endurance Premiership Season 5 along with his this team, which was Team Son, if I recall correctly, with Lars, Marius89, and Tucson, and he won 2 maps out of 3 in the grand final. So yeah, that's an astounding achievement in itself. But having commentated like various cups, like various events in Canyon in 2019, I feel like one of the other 3 players would have had a good shot at getting into that getting that award. I feel like Cloud, people don't really underestimate how fast this guy is on Canyon. He's definitely the Flying Dutchman, if you can say so, of Canyon. Currently, formerly part of Team Hype Boys, now part of Team Amplified. He had, well, I'm mainly saying Smurfs Cup Canyon because that's one of the metrics that we have, but yeah, he's had 8 wins in Smurfs Cup Canyon. He dominated pretty much a month and a half, during which I commentated, which was really incredible to see. Also, we have his Australian teammate Mebe12, who almost has the same amount of wins in Canyon SCL, in Canyon Smurfs Cup, during 2019, but he is possibly the fastest guy ever in time attack, holding many world records on many competitive maps on Canyon. And Suram, well, in terms of the stats, they pretty much speak for themselves. He finished runner-up with this team in SCL CEP Season 5, 16 times, Smurf Cup Canyon winner. I feel like he would have been a really good candidate as well to get the award. Of course, that's a bit of a patty category when you feel like, that's what the fuck does that have to do with the rest of the stadium stuff? Well, Canyon is an environment that I really like, and I felt like it wasn't really, it felt kind of wrong to see Riolu win by such by the margin. Riolu would have been a contender and a potential winner, but I wasn't expecting the kind of margins that we saw at the end of the voting. And the second category, which kind of made me feel sad, but I do understand the qualities of that. It's Caster of the Year. I personally voted as a Frenchman. I voted for my fellow colleague Necrua because he's done a really good job in 2019. Towards the last bit that I managed to actually follow with casts of the Tournoi de Région France or French regional tournaments, also various casts that I've followed in the past whilst I was trying to get back into Trackmania slowly but surely. And yeah, I feel like it's always a bit sad when you do see your vote and your fellow Frenchmen don't take a coveted win. But Riolu is a really good caster in his own right. So here I totally agree with the vote. It's just Canyon of the Player of the Year where I feel like it was a bit harsh for some of the other people.
You know, that is the main problem with an award show like this, that's going to cover everything. Because let's say that myself, I'm focusing mainly on the esports side of it, mainly on the tech or now the mixed style of it. Once I go in to look at it and I, let's say, go to an award that I don't really follow, should I then skip the award or should I just vote for someone that oh, I know Riolo, then I can press his. And that's a reason why maybe he gets these big numbers like the Canyon Player of the Year. I don't know if it's deserved or not, but you say it's not, so maybe that's the reason why he brings up these big numbers, because he's a famous face for people outside of Canyon, so maybe the Canyon community within itself don't really feel that that's deserved. But in the end, he got nominated from people who follow the Canyon scene this year at least, so he is deserved to be nominated. And
yeah, rightfully so.
Yeah,
it's just the margin of winning that really surprised me a lot. I thought the Canyon community would be a bit more present to potentially give credit to people like Cloud, Mebe, and Suram, which really deserve it. To be fair, they're absolutely monsters in Canyon. It's just in the end, it wasn't all that much to my regrets personally.
But also, you brought up Caster of the Year. I didn't really agree with having even a Frenchman being nominated, because how can I judge him? And this is, again, open for the whole community, so not only people who understand French. Let's say that, let's be optimistic and say half of the people who voted for this didn't understand French. So yeah, that's what I feel about it. And I think Caster of the Year is certainly one of the awards I agree the most with, because I really think Riolo is... He casted in major events, he casted throughout the whole year. It was just after 2019 he stopped, so...
I also do agree with the vote at the end result. It's just, as a Frenchman, I couldn't help but vote for Necra, of course, but yeah. Biased, bullshit, useless. But yeah, that was basically my personal feeling. There aren't much awards that I can really touch on, because as I said, 2019 has been a bit of an awkward year for me in terms of life and gaming in general, so yeah.
Something if I can touch on there, and I mean, I know it's kind of got its ties and it's got its reasons behind it. One of my biggest problem with these awards, and it's been it since its inception, or at least since I've started getting involved in it, which, if I remember right, this was the third time if I'd been involved. Eirik will need to correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I believe so.
But my main problem with it comes into just a tiny statement you give out there, Geek, and it's nothing that I would then say you should feel bad about or anything like that. But it kind of brings in a fundamental problem with the awards as itself. So the award, when you look at what you're giving an award for, you're giving an award for the best, say, player of the year. You're giving an award for who you thought was the best player of the year. Caster of the year, who you thought was the best caster of the year. But a lot of people start getting tied into this in a sense that some people, I mean, it might be just yourself, I sincerely doubt that, but a lot of people who are primarily French speakers would be inclined to vote for Necra, regardless of whether or not they think he's the best caster of the year. They want to support him because he's French. And it goes on the other side of things for what I believe is primarily the reason Riolo's winning a lot of events, is not only just his skill and his deserving of awards and things like that, but Riolo has a massive following. I mean, you can't look at that and think that his followers aren't going to support him in awards like this. I mean, I can imagine a majority of his votes are from his supporters, who would just look at that event or look at that award and have a natural bias towards Riolo, as they are more inclined to support him. I mean, I'm sure a large majority of Riolo's supporters, or at least I'd like to think so, come into this without taking that sort of bias and are looking at the awards and taking it from whoever deserves it the most. But it's kind of an issue I look like. Say, for example, I'm watching someone's cast, and I'm a bit critical when it comes to people's casts. So when I'm looking at people's casts, I'll look at it and think, you know, there's a lot of things you could improve here, for example, if it wasn't so great. But you'll always have people there saying it's the best cast I've ever seen, it's you know, amazing, and it's you're the best caster in the world and things like that. And for your big personalities, they do have people like this who are just going to blindly vote for them whether they deserve it or not. So well, please don't take it as if I'm kind of firing you like that, but my primary problem with awards is that most of the people don't go into these awards voting for who they think deserves it, or, well, I suppose they may be more inclined to feel about who they support deserves it, but they are more inclined to go in and vote for who they want to win the most, rather than who they think should win the most,
or who they know the best, because they're part of their community. Therefore, there's a community bias.
Yeah, exactly. And with so many awards, it's only going to be natural that for some of them you're not going to feel your knowledge base is as well rounded on. But in my opinion, instead of just blindly voting for that, you should make an effort to educate yourself and to see who does deserve it the most, instead of just going, I like this guy, I watch his stream, you know, slam the vote on him. And I'm not saying people are just, you know, mindless in that kind of sense and mindlessly following people, but it's clearly able to be seen when exactly as you say there, the Canyon Player of the Year, Riolu is not 2 times more deserving of an award than Meep. He's not 10 times more deserving of the award than Cloud. Yeah, I'm not even sure if Riolu is more deserving of the award than those other players. I'm not going to get into that argument, but it just goes to show how much of a bias there is in these awards, and how for so many of them, I personally, in my head, I put an asterisk to, I mean, did they really deserve it? You know, I mean, I don't know what you guys think about that, but I've always been more outspoken in my views about that.
Well, to me, they are the winners because, again, it's up to the community. So I also try to give the angle that you give. Instead of asking who do you want to win, who do you think should win? Like, who do you actually, if you try to be somewhat objective and not subjective, who should win it? And I know people already brought it up, like after the results were out, that, okay, this was basically Carl Jr. winning and then Zeta T winning, just because they are the biggest names in Trackmania. But the only argument, or the only award I feel like that this had an impact on, is the story of the year, because even though Riolu achieved something insane with the 200 Trackmania and Turbo World records, I think the entrance of Trackmania Grand League by far influenced the Trackmania community way more than that story. So when I look back at 2019, I'll 100% remember it for it being the first time Ubisoft and Dev hosted something. And I'm really surprised that that didn't win. I even had a bet with Nathan about it. He said Riolu was going to win. I said, no way, that's going to be a Trackmania Grand League. It's going to be a landslide. But in the end, it was the story of the year, because I guess people followed Riolu's battle against the 200 world records more closely than I did, at least.
And there's actually critics in my chat saying that it's the reason for like voting for some people for like blind votes and whatever, that it's hard to educate yourself with over 20 categories with awards up for grabs. And that's actually true, because if you split, that's been the case with the Trackmania Awards 2019. I want to speak openly about this. We had 27 awards in total, and some of them have been really, it's been really unnecessary splits. For instance, in Stadium, well, we do have to cater for each style, but yeah, you had Tech Player of the Year, RPG Player of the Year, Dirt Player of the Year, Full Speed Player of the Year, then you had Most Improved Player of the Year, you had Fastest Player of the Year, then you had Best Player of the Year. That's 7 awards in total Player of the Year awards, and I feel like that's kind of like a bit of fluff. I don't know if we can really condense that and get some clump some awards together in order to potentially reduce the number of awards that people can vote to. Because if it in the end there are so many different categories, and many categories people are not really that well educated in, people just tend to get lost and they tend to get blind votes, and that's how you get those kind of skewed results happening as well. That's another factor. Maybe not as much as the community bias that we talk with Scottie, but that's another factor that to actually take into account.
Yeah, but if you're then gonna remove Dirt Player or Full Speed Player of the Year, that is, in my eyes, way bigger than Canyon Player, Valley Player, Lagoon Player, then you're left with the best player of the year, and then it's gonna be Carl Jr. winning.
Those are just examples. Those were just examples that I cited.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with it's too many awards, but every year I ask, what should I remove? And instead of removing stuff, people say you should add this because you should split it into more categories. You should have not only movie of the year, you should have video of the year that is shorter than 3 minutes. You should have a map of the year that's not competitive map of the year. So even though you try to stimulate so many aspects of Trackmania with having 27 awards, that is way too much, people are still like, oh, where's my award? Where is the award that hit my community? And in the end, you have to make some sort of cut, but I agree. I think it's way too many awards at the moment. But the only obvious awards, in my opinion, is Fastest Player of the Year. I don't think that is. It should maybe be in, but every year it's getting confused because Fastest Player of the Year.
What do you take into account? What do you take into account to actually use that metric? If you just listen to the word
Fastest Player of the Year, that should be like also the best player of the year. Why is he not the best player? So
yeah.
I would remove it. I asked people if they want to remove it this year, but they say they want to give it another shot. So I'm curious to see if
Yeah,
the jury or
I'm
the
curious
people in
as
charge
well
actually-
because the thing is with fastest player of the year, that's a thought that I come into my mind. What do you kind of use as metric to use fastest player of the year? Because if you count the amount of world records, there's just going to be sometimes at one point there's going to be, for instance, Kappa, who's been really into hunting the TM2 Stadium campaign maps recently. He's going to try to when he gets world records, for instance, on the competitive maps, on top of that, and on top of other maps as well. If we take all these world records into account, then it's pretty much just a who has the biggest contest, if you know what I mean, right? It's basically just who has the most world records, then I win automatically. And yeah, it's kind of like difficult to actually take give priority to, for instance, okay, this guy has the most competition world records versus this guy had the most ideal world records, and so on and so forth. So yeah, fastest player of the year is one of those categories that is a bit dubious.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say here is Kappa if you just look at the world records, because he had all major world records at competitive events. So even though it was somewhat unclear what this category was about, I think was the rightful winner in that category.
Yeah.
See, just to pick up on that, just for because it reminded me of something. The first time I helped out with the Trackmania Awards was back in 2017. It showed me one of my first kind of fundamental experiences with the kind of community bias, which kind of irked me a little bit, shall we say, frustrated me some. As I remember, I think if I remember correctly, for the first year we done it, Eirik, we took quite a big workload on. There wasn't as many people involved as there was in later years, but I might be incorrect in that. But regardless,
Yeah, you're in. The first year was, or if you go back to when it started, it was just basically me and Shumi mentioning who we thought was the winner. Then the next year it was me inviting one guest only on to then nominate 4 people, and then last year it was, I believe it was 5 jury members basically during everything.
Yeah, so it kind of gave me my first example of kind of community bias in a sense. Now, it came in the fastest player of the year in 2017. Now, I remember, at least I've formulated nominees for that. I don't remember if I was the one who was tasked with actually coming up with the award, and I seem to remember having a big role in it anyway. And I remember one of my... Massa wasn't included in the nominees, and Massa was very unhappy at this. And the community was outraged at that. The primary focus of this outrage was on Kronos, who was included for Fast Player of the Year, and how it kind of showed me so fundamentally that there was a community bias, even unintentionally. When you think of Massa, you associate him with being a lightning fast player, you know, top of the times all the time. When I looked at because I think I was the person you asked to do the award for that.
Maybe.
I looked into every single world record and every single top 3 Deddy done in a competitive track in 2017, and Kronos was by far the highest. Like, it wasn't even close. Like, if it was by numbers, Kronos would have won by an absolute landslide. But because people well, of course, we all know he's an incredible player, but people didn't associate him in the same level of being the fastest player of the year, because there was, like, say, Kappa who was involved, and people were okay with that because he'd won Gamers Assembly in 2017. And I can't recall, I believe it might have been Pac who was the other one of that, but people were so biased towards Massa and the Massa kind of Kronos duel, so to speak, if you were to vote for them as the two to get into the final 4. Yet, I mean, when you look at who would have came out on top numbers wise, I mean, it wasn't even a contest, it wasn't even close. But again, to me, that's just a prime example of the community bias. It's just people, and it's just what you associate a figure with. You associate Massa. He is, of course, a more popular figure, and you associate him with being fastest player of the year. He's one of the names that comes to your mind first because you know him well. You know he's a known quantity. Kronos is as well, but he isn't as popular as Massa, and as such, his name wasn't one of the first ones. It was maybe the second or third. So that's one of the prime examples of it that reminded me of fastest player of the year. And again, I mean, it's just kind of. It's been my problem. It's been my shit to get pissed off with in the Trackmania Awards. But I mean, you can't make everyone happy, I suppose.
But something I missed this year compared to, let's say, 2017, 2018 is that people actually seem to care more, because then actually hit us up in DMs with shit about, oh, why is this not nominated? Why did this one win? I haven't not been hit with a single message this year.
Where's
so
my
I don't know.
abuse?
But is there any other categories that you feel like the winner maybe surprised you, or should we already go to, let's say, is there anyone we missed being even nominated?
Well, to be fair, I don't really have any more opinion on this. I feel like I highlighted my points more than enough for the Canadian Player of the Year award, and I feel like I don't really have anything to add as well. Although people in the chat are mentioning that they don't really understand the nomination of Mudda for Moment of the Year when he failed to achieve.
Yeah, that is what I'm gonna bring up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess that's a good segue.
Yeah.
Because disagreeing with nominations, I have some that I should already have been in there. I have written up that Story of the Year. I don't think Mudda should have been in there simply because, well, he retired but came back. So, okay. Online Event of the Year, I already mentioned that I don't think that Trackmania Granley should have won the award, and it wasn't even nominated, so I think that should have been nominated. And I also think if you're first going to include French-speaking streamers, where is Yannick, the guy who actually streamed the most of Trackmania in 2019, so... Yeah, I don't understand a single word of what he's saying when he streams, but if you first are gonna implement or take in the French streamers or French-speaking streamers, I think Yannick should have been in there simply because of the numbers.
Fair cop.
Yeah.
Griffix, I have a few messages in my chat as well. Well, messages. For instance, opinion from the chat is award for best tech, dirt, or full speed player of the year shouldn't even exist. They're kind of redundant because that's what competitions are for, seeing who is the best. What's your opinion on that, guys?
I don't think that's right at all. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
If you look at it this way, right? So if I win Gamers Assembly, obviously that's not going to happen.
Hello.
If I was to win Gamers Assembly at the very start of the year, that does not mean I'm going to be that might be I was the best player at that time. But you can't just then look at the end of the year and say, right, he won an event, so that means he's the best player of the year. Now, the important part of this is it's of the year, okay? So, I mean, if a player played one event of a year and they won it, which I believe was a prime example for, if I recall, it was Tech Player of the Year, and Pac wasn't nominated despite Pac winning Gamers Assembly 2019, because Pac didn't play anything else. So you can't then just say that, well, he is one of the best tech players in the world, and at that time when he won Gamers Assembly, he probably was the best tech player in the world, I mean, arguably, of course, then just because he won one event and he was the alpha at that time, so to speak, doesn't mean he just kind of holds that role outright. I mean, it's throughout the whole year, which is to find out who has been the most consistent performer, who's been most consistently delivering in their field, and who deserves recognition for their contribution throughout 2019, not throughout March or April 2019, or as is most popular in the awards itself, through winter 2019 as it is. But just to get back onto one of the things you brought up previous as to nominees you didn't agree with, I would definitely fit with you there in the sense that I was involved in the jury for Moment of the Year, and I don't believe that should have been nominated. I believe that was tactical voting by some of the jury members. I'm not going to throw anyone specific under the bus, but that was pretty clear to me. And exactly as you said there, Yannick's for Streamer of the Year, because not only was he primarily putting in a significant amount of hours towards streaming, but even from me not speaking a lick of French apart from swear words, I was able to look at what Yannick had done for his stream throughout the year. He's picked up numerous new concepts, he's brought events towards his stream, and he's engaged his streamers at 2019, I believe, and a way few others did. A lot of other streamers throughout the year I've felt have been trend followers, as in there's been a trend of Kaki is Kaki. There's been a trend where they've all jumped into dirt tournaments, or there's been a trend where they've all jumped into the Dale tournaments. Whereas I feel Yannick is more of a trendsetter. He does things which other people then replicate, and he's kind of blazing a trail of his own, which I believe it was almost criminal that he wasn't voted in for Streamer of the Year. But again, I mean, for a community that is more engaged in these engaged in these awards, you were always going to have the 3 big English streamers, no matter who you put in the jury for that. I mean, you were always going to have them, unfortunately. But I suppose that's just the way it is.
Well,
yeah, also the Griffiths brought up that why you even have this. I mean, you can be a world champion, but still you cannot. That doesn't mean that you are the world best player. You can win a big tournament, but you can have a good day, a good weekend, but it's overall.
Yeah.
This is to overall who has done the best overall the year. Maybe someone that performed well at every event but didn't win the single big title. Then this can be a chance to actually highlight that they actually did well, so they are not forgotten.
Exactly. Well, did we do a tour of everything, gentlemen, or shall we get started?
Let me just ask you some simple or fast question. We can just. Is there any? What is the award you agree the most with? We have talked about. Oh, we disagree with that. We disagree with that. But let's end on a positive note with 2019. What is, let's say, the 2 awards you agree the most with?
Let me recollect a little bit. Hold on. Because
I'll jump in on that while you're recollecting on that, just to give you a fair chance. One of the ones I agreed most with was the Tech Player of the Year. And not only the winner of that, but also the nominees for that. So consistently for big events, we saw Kappa turning up and performing extraordinarily well. So whatever he turned his hand to, he performed extremely well, was top of the scoreboards in, of course, the Nations Cup, and was a top performer at every LAN event he went to throughout that year. So I'd say Kappa's a very good, well-deserved, very well-deserved winner of that. And I'm very happy with the other 3 nominees that got through, because Tech Player of the Year was one of the main ones where so many people were giving nominees based upon, again, something that they had as a feeling rather than they had actual factual backing on. So the other nominees we had was Tween, Danik B and Dexter, all who have been extraordinarily strong performers throughout the year. Tween, of course, primarily LAN events, Danik B a lot of online events, pardon me, and Dexter being a kind of representative from the teams tournaments. You kind of could maybe switch him out with Magorian for that kind of same spot, minus the kind of man versus man. But I was most happy with that, because a lot of people were giving plaudits to players and saying this person should be nominated. I believe the typical name was Complex. But even when you would go and ask his teammates about Complex being nominated, like, why is he nominated? He was only here for like 3 months, you know. But because he had a big effect on people in those 3 months, you know, they maybe watched a few matches, which he did do very well on. And he got that hype about him. So many people were nominating him, even though Complex didn't really have that big of an impact throughout the entire year. Yet he was the name on everyone else's lips, and if it was just going by, you know, how many hits his name had, he would have won the event over Kappa, never mind even being nominated for it. So that's the one, being a Tech Player as well and looking into that sort of thing, I was most happy with all 4 nominees and the eventual winner.
Well, for me, I had the chance to look a little bit throughout the awards, and there are at least 2 categories that I can actually really agree with both the winners and the nominees, and those are relating to skinning. First of all, it must be said, even though I wasn't really active in the game in the playing sense throughout 2019, I stayed in contact mainly with Anthony Pinel, who's been nominated for Skinner of the Year, and I think he does deserve to at least be nominated in that category, because that guy's been doing some really cool skins as well, and I'm really happy with the set of nominations. I mean, Shumi, what would the category be without Shumi anyway? I mean, he's an absolute mainstay, so fair enough that he would be nominated. Collar, really great skins as well. Anto, he really deserved that for the amount of work that he puts through, and he's also had to take a little bit of a break due to health issues. Now he's come back, and he's coming better than ever. And Groof, well, I've had the chance to look at some of his work, and they're really nicely done skin as well. So yeah, one of the up-and-comers potentially for this year, potentially be on the lookout. And Skin of the Year, I was also happy with the nominees and how it turned out, because I had a good chance to look at them before in preparation for the various streams and whatnot. And yeah, also during the Grand League, of course, with Big and Devils by Shumi being showcased, but most prominently to myself and to me, and also the most viewers. And yeah, I was really happy that the Devils One skin by Shumi won, because it was really... Oh, we lost Eirik, it seems, as I got, as you see, the return from OBS. Don't worry, he'll come back. He'll come back. Do not worry about that. There we go. Teething problems. Episode 3, boys. Episode 3, and we're still having...
I mean, this has gone on since ever I started casting, so I guess this is a curse from the casting scene.
Yeah, but as I was saying, I was really happy to see that the Devil's One skin won, because I really feel like that skin was really one of the skins that really stood tall and proud above the rest. Even more so than the Berlin International Gaming skin that Shumi also submitted and that was nominated for Skin of the Year. With the way that the hues were and the shapes worked together, with the detailing work, it was absolutely stunning. And I was also happy to see that Azix and the Pulse 3 skin got nominated with pretty much no text at all, just triangular shapes and really well arranged and stuff like that. And also happy that Anto got nominated, although the skin that he had his nomination with didn't really stand a chance compared to the rest of the nominees, even with Azix's skin, which was only 2% off of the winning votes, which was Shumi's Devil's One skin. But yeah, overall skin and Skinner of the Year, super happy with both the nominees and the results in both categories.
I'm gonna say that the one I felt most strong about was Performance of the Year. I had to, even before it was nominated, I thought if Carl Jr. doesn't win this, then let's say I would end it, but I ended it anyway, leaving Trackmania Awards. But imagine that over 10 weeks you are essentially wrecking the rest of the best players in the world. It's not like he's showing up to an online event where the players are somewhat trained. This is the biggest competition of the year, and he's still beating them. And that's also why I think he should have won, or that's also why I'm happy that he won a Player of the Year. Okay, he won just the groups and just Serati Trackmania Cup, but do you remember how long Trackmania Grand League took on for? And he also won every single playoff match until he had to forfeit for the grand final, and he also qualified to Air France Cup. So I was some sort of battling between who should I vote for, but when I looked really into it and just how long Trackmania Grand League lasted, and I mean, I didn't have much of a hard choice when picking Carl Jr. as a winner for Player of the Year.
So I think we've covered pretty much everything. So I think it's time to discuss what's up next for Trackmania Awards. What's coming for the next edition?
Yeah, I'm out. Bye.
See ya.
But yeah, I have done this since I watched some MMA show with Ariel Helvani. He did essentially just a show where he brought up who he thought was going to be the winner along with New York Rick, and that's why I contacted Shumi back in 2016. Okay, nobody's talking about what is happening in Trackmania, so let's do it. That was essentially also the first Trackmania podcast, if you can look at it that way. But then people started disagreeing with saying, maybe you should open it for the community so the community can do it. Next year, I open up for people to say what they thought. Then I said, next year you should have a jury. Then I implemented a jury for 2018. Then I said, next year you should have a jury that actually knows every category. And then this year I did that. So I feel like I have done everything I could do for this. I want to be in the background watching a community-based awards because I think I have done what I can do for a community-based awards. And now I want to go back to what I essentially planned when I started back in 2016, having something that I can share my point of view, because looking at the juries, some of them worked out really well. I want to highlight, like, let's say the players that did outside stadium, Marius, Lars, people like that. They went straight to the point, straight to the facts. But others, you felt like I had to sort of push them to it, and then there was 1 hour left until the deadline. Okay, maybe we should try to think what we feel instead of what we actually can do about it. So I feel like I can do more research alone than most of these can, and I just want to have the feeling of this is my winner, so I don't have to defend people every year. It's like, this is why he and he's
have your own freedom of thought, basically.
Yeah, but this is not the end of the community-based awards, because I think even though we maybe disagree with some calling it popularity contest, I still think it's important for the community to have a place where they can share what they feel are the winners and what's happened. Let's celebrate Trackmania for every year. So at the moment, it looks like Laos is going to be the leader. Who is going to be in the jury, I don't know. He talks about Trackmania News. Then you have Johnny Boy, who has been there since 2018 with a voting page, saying that Hunt Mania can step in and maybe help. Then you have a guy like Scottie, who has been my second hand. I don't know if he want to still be in there. But what I know is that, or I don't even know, because if nobody's going to do it, I'll probably step up and do it again. But I'm not going to be in charge of this anymore. And I want to leave this to other people to bring forward and bring stuff that can improve it, because I think I have done what I can do for the Trackmania Awards.
All right. I want to have a little bit of a word compared to my involvement, for instance, with the Trackmania 2019 Awards. I was basically called on a short notice by Eirik because...
What do you mean short notice?
Well,
a week.
Well, that's what I call short notice, because initially
Exactly.
I was called in for doing voiceovers for what was originally videos, much like the Trackmania Awards 2019, where it was basically one video each day at the end of the year to reveal the nominees. Unfortunately, we all know how that went. We all know how time has passed, and the projects got slightly delayed until, boom, we lost all the files on the hard drive. So yeah, I got called up. Hey, do you want to do the reveal on stream? I'm like, hey, sure, why not? So yeah, I decided to. I agreed on that. I think we had a 1 or 2 week preparation period where I basically I kind of scrambled together. I kind of scrambled along with Luz to get everything together to make sure that the stream would work, to make sure that all the assets would show up correctly. We all know how that went in the nomination stream. Well, we had a good start, and then, like, 5-10 minutes in, boom, internet cut. Like, that was really frustrating, really stressful. So yeah, I had to switch connections around. That's a whole shtick together. Forgot to set the music on the background. We had some slides that didn't, with some things that would randomly disappear, whatever, clips that didn't work, and this is one of those streams where you do get, where I did get some gray hair at the end of it, right? That was possibly one of the worst streams technically I've ever done, and yeah, of course it did go much better in the winner ceremony, where everything this time, all the issues have been sussed out and everything went cool, and yeah, as far as next year, I don't really know. As far as 2020, I don't really know whether or not I will be involved. Of course, if I will be involved, I will not be part of a jury. I would be more towards a broadcasting role. If we can see, if the staff decides to continue to do reveals live, like for instance we've done this year, if we want to continue down that path, then I feel like I would be getting, I would try to get involved in some way, because I feel like I have definitely learned a few things when it comes to like production of streaming to multiple platforms and whatnot, and I feel like I could offer some of that technical expertise to like the broadcasting aspect of the TM Awards. Other than that, I don't really know what my role is going to be in the future. There's going to be plenty of big things coming for me personally in the future, but that's another story altogether.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what's next, I mean, I was part of the discussions as to what's going to be happening going forward into the next edition of Trackmania Awards. But as I've reiterated throughout this kind of conversation, so to speak, is my fundamental problem, or what my goal is if I'm going to be if I'm going to be part of a Trackmania Awards project, is I want to make sure that the awards mean something. That if you get an award, you are the right person who has got that award. But at the moment, as I've said, I feel like it's becoming a bit too much of a popularity contest now. It's becoming who the most people want, or who's the most popular wins these awards now, and that's something that's really frustrated me, because not only coming into it from so it for me, it makes some awards have less meaning, because I mean, were you really say this of the year, or were you just simply the most popular person in the nominees list?
Yeah.
And if it's going to continue like that, it's not really something I want to continue being a part of, because for me, as I said, it devalues the awards. And going into, say for example, as a caster, like, one of my fundamental problems with it, because I have been nominated for some of these awards, I have had the potential to be nominated for some other awards in the past. One of my fundamental problems with it is if I'm not such a massive personality, and I've not got such a massive following, if I then go into an awards nomination against someone who has a significantly higher following than me, it doesn't matter how good I am. It doesn't matter if, say the critics out there think I'm the best in the world at what it is, then I still won't get the award because I just won't get enough of the popular vote. So I would like to see I kind of like when you see in, for example, football, you see like player of the year, or like when it goes for some of these high awards, it's voted by, like, say, the managers of football clubs, it's voted by the captains of the football clubs. So I would like to have an award there which is truly coming from experts who really do know what they're talking about. But Eirik will know, and of course, as I've been part of it, I'll know as well, that coming into these awards, I would just reiterate, regardless of how this moves forward, one of the kind of main themes I kind of try to harp on about in the awards that were just done there is that a lot of people had problems with these awards. As Eirik was saying, when there was issues with it, he adjusted, he added this, he added that, he added this. But one of the main things, we've always had people complaining about the awards. We've always had people complaining, this person shouldn't be nominated, that person shouldn't be nominated, and being so outspoken about the awards. But when it comes time for people to step up and help out, they're gone. They're nowhere to be seen. When we opened, like, because it was me, well, it was Eirik primarily, and then secondly myself in charge of the awards for this time. And when we were looking at the kind of people who were applying to be part of the awards, we really didn't have as wide a base as we would have needed to have experts on every category. I was on, I think, 11 or 12 categories. I wouldn't claim to be an expert on that many categories. Absolutely not. We had so many people who were not suited for these kind of awards, or so many people who just simply weren't experts. They were just community members coming in to lend a hand because we needed them. We needed bodies to come in for these sort of things. So I want to see people, if we are going to have a community-based award, I want to see a lot of people, getting involved, taking the finger out, so to speak, and getting involved instead of being the kind of person who's just going to sit at the back and sit and complain all the time. And what the idiom I'd always use is be part of the solution, don't be part of the problem, so to speak. Always, if you identify a problem, do what you can to fix it. It doesn't take long. It's a project that was open for, I think, 2 months to simply come up with 4 people who were deserving of an award. It's not hard, but again, it was always disappointing to see, with my involvement in 17 and 18, that again, so all these people who in the years gone past were lighting up my PMs, with all kinds of abuse, or why did this person not get voted and all that kind of shit. When it came round to the next year, they were gone. They were nowhere to be found when it came to actually having their say on it and having their involvement on it. So for next year, I don't know if I'll be involved in the awards in either kind of sense, as Eirik understands kind of going solo and his kind of thing, as he said, for his own kind of freedom. And also, if it's going to be a community-based award where it's just kind of going to be another popularity contest, it's just going to be a meaningless award to me, and I'm not really interested in that.
All right,
yeah, that's something really important to bring up, because now that we look back at it, we can call it somewhat successful if we want, but I was even debating if I should do this again, because I already said after 2018 that I feel that someone else should step in and bring some new life to it, some new vision to it, because I've already felt then that I have done what I can do with it, but nobody stepped up even to host it as the main guy. So I said, okay, I can do it. But this year I want people to apply for jury members, so it feels more like a community award, so we have experts from every scene. But the first mention I brought up, or the first application I put up on the Discord itself, on my, I think it was YouTube as well, on Twitter, barely people started to apply. It was first when I said that either you apply or there's no awards. Then some people stepped up because they felt that they just wanted to see it taking place. They wanted to help out. So we had people like Scottie who said that even though he didn't feel like he should be in 12 awards or even more, he wanted to help out the community. If not, the awards will be gone, and then you will have these people, that these internet heroes coming on saying, oh, where is this award? They only care about Trackmania Awards for one day of the year, and then it's the day that results get revealed. They don't give a shit about the rest of the year. They just want to feel like they'd give a shit about it. But if you actually do, then step up and help the community instead of sitting back and, this guy should have won. Then guess what? Step the fuck up and do something about it. And not because the community is small. People need to help the community if it's gonna move forward. If everybody just sits back and wait for things to happen, nothing is gonna happen. I learned it. That's essentially what I do. Nobody's doing Trackmania Awards. I wanted it to take place. Instead of asking people to do it, I do it myself. Nobody's going to events. Instead of nobody's doing it, I step up and do it. So people really need. We speak a lot about the community being great, and I certainly agree with that. But we still have people that should step up and doing it instead of talking down on people who actually spend free time on doing it. We have juries that maybe did a good job, did put in a lot of effort, but maybe in the end didn't get the right nominations coming through, and then get bad words for it. People say that, you didn't do a good job, so you scare people away from even doing it with these kind of words. So, I mean, I'm done with it. I'm done with the community part of the Trackmania Awards, and I just want to say who I think should win it in the next year, because then I know at least that it's just relying on more or less one person. I will certainly ask people for help, like I always do, like the visuals, maybe some research that is correct. But then I don't need to apply on 30 people, and then each year am I going to think, are people going to apply? Are people going to help me out? Or are we essentially going to be like, when it's December 20 or 31st, 1 hour until midnight, I'm going to hashtag everyone in the jury, where are the nominations? So, yeah. But let's round out. If you had to remove or add something, what would that be? If you had to remove awards, what awards should be removed?
Well, I guess I'm just gonna go forward here, and I know this is gonna be sounding weird after one of the opinions that I had earlier on the show, and it's gonna probably turn a few people off. I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a certain clan in particular that I'm not gonna be part of pretty soon because of what I'll say, and I'm gonna have some strong words about it. But I feel like due to the situation that we have now with the new game coming out and whatever, and this entire. Basically, Stadium was basically the environment that has been the most focused on, and with the new Trackmania coming in, it's going to be pretty much the environment to rule them all. Then I guess I'm guessing that this will probably be the last year where we see the other environments being brought up in Trackmania in the TM2 category, so to speak. So yeah, the Mania Planet environments that are Canyon, Valley, and Laguna gotta go, because technically, of course they cater to a part of the community, but they are somewhat of a niche compared to the global part of the community that is basically on Stadium and pretty much only on this environment. I know this is going to sound pretty drastic, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate mail and potentially death threats, but that's the way I view it.
I agree with you. I'm not going to feel bad about saying it, because I think those communities are small. I only brought it up simply because people wanted it. I already said then once I brought it up and I invited, I don't know who I invited back in 2017, but I have no single clue about Canyon, Valley, or Lagoon. I simply don't follow it, but I felt the community wanted it. So yeah, but if I had to remove some awards, the first one, obviously fastest player of the year, if it doesn't get changed, because it just feels weird. You are the best player of the year, but not fastest player of the year. But then I will go down the list and remove. I can maybe agree with, who was it that said we should only have one award? Maybe we should just have player of the year, because then at least people 100% care about that award.
Well,
I'm just remembering from 2018, Eirik, when we had to do, what was it, Valley Player of the Year. Still to this day, there was one player in the nominees, and I apologise to that individual. I'm sure they were well deserving of it. Still, I don't know who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Valley Player of the Year, and and that's just the nature of these kind of things. It's just not getting enough going for it at the moment, I feel.
Yeah, exactly. But should the format, Scottie, you bring it up that maybe you feel like this popularity contest. I saw some people agreeing with you, even within the, let's say, the staff Discord where we talk about what's next. Should it be somewhat that maybe the public say who they think should be nominated, and then the jury picks who is winning? Should it just be a jury picking them? Should it be 50-50 maybe? Is there a way to balance it so it's the community can say what they feel about it, but in the end, it's also some experts picking along with them.
Well, the problem with that is depends who's involved. I mean, the ideal way I would have it is I would have the experts, people from the respective fields, just simply picking who's nominated and who deserves to win the most, because they know the best about it. They're least likely to be biased about it because they're part of these communities. They want to see the most deserving person win. That's the way I see it. But when I look at, again, the juries that were involved in 2019, we're not going to have enough people to do that. It's as simple as that. You're going to have to cut down on a lot of awards for that to work. I mean, there's a few people that could maybe kind of spread themselves across different awards, or maybe there's some that you can do research on and kind of educate yourself enough to make a decision on that. But it's as far as I would say going forward, the if you want to be able to say this person is, once the results come out or whatever it is, to say this person is X of the year, so to speak, then it needs to be decided by people who know what they're talking about, people who are less likely to be biased, either knowingly or unknowingly. And yeah, that's the way I would see the ideal world. I would see awards. There is a place which community awards belong, there is definitely a place where community awards belong. But I mean, like, we even saw when this time we did have public channels open for every award for people to then nominate who they thought would then be deserving or who they thought should be considered as part of the nominees for that. And two main names, specifically for Cast of the Year, because this is the one I was most unhappy about. Selfishly a little bit, but I'll get into that. Eirik knows. But there was two names which never there's one that never got mentioned publicly or privately, and there was one that never got mentioned publicly at all, as far as I know, and privately until the very last day. Now, going into Cast of the Year, you had three. Well, you had the mainstay, of course, was going to be Riolu. That's perfectly fine. Necro as well. They were your two mainstays, and then the rest you were coming in with people like Cousin. You were coming in with people like completely
Wingo Bear.
Yeah, that's
Spam was mentioned.
Spam was mentioned.
Radiance was mentioned.
So out of all of those names, you then kind of look into people who haven't been there as much throughout the entire year. People who, when they have been there, they've not kind of took it as much upon themselves to be a caster, so to speak. I'd give the example of Radiance. Radiance has been a good caster, but he's singularly been doing events with Riolu throughout the year, with a few minor exceptions. But two main names we didn't see part of that. Myself, I was not part of that nominees until the very, very last day, when I prompted the Caster of the Year jury to finish up what they were doing, and then they realised, oh wait, shit, Scotty's a caster. Get him in. But even for people who'd been part of the Caster of the Year jury, for people who'd been publicly nominated, publicly looking, publicly when they'd been putting in the Discord, I was never mentioned. But I ended up being part of the final jury, which kind of goes to show how, I felt that I'd been overlooked, but regardless of whether or not I deserved to be part of the nominees whatsoever, I ended up being part of it. Yet I was first mentioned on the very last day they confirmed it. The second name I'll give for that is Turbo. Turbo put in a humongous amount of effort throughout 2019. Very well deserved to be part of the Final Four, in my opinion, being a caster, knowing what the fuck I'm talking about. He didn't get mentioned publicly by anyone. He didn't get mentioned privately by anyone. And I was disgusted by that. And it goes to show that even if you have an open public jury for it, that's not the perfect balance, because so many people who are even clearly deserving, in my mind, Turbo was clearly deserving, yet he get mentioned by no one, and any system where that happens doesn't work to me. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, so even if you have a jury pick new winners, they're still gonna get it wrong or forget about people. And that's what I mentioned about me going to sort of do it on my own, because then I can rely on myself. I can rely on me doing the research, and if people disagree with me, then they know at least who to blame, and I know I cannot hide behind someone else and say I was just the 2 other members of the jury that forgot about that. But yeah. Do we? It feels like we are talking about just deleting the fucking public vote, which I don't think we should do.
No, not at all.
Yeah. How to improve it? Should they just host it like it was this year, or? I mean, there should be improvements every year because it's a new project, but so far, just removing some awards and move on.
Here's a kind of thought, right? So I have my problem, as I said, through countless times, I've got a problem with personal bias. That's obvious. Now, how about we do it this way? How about you have one award show, and because some of these awards also are subjective, right? So different experts would look at it different ways. Perfect examples are movies of the year, skin of the year, all of these sort of kind of things. Movie maker of the year, pardon me. Track of the year, all these sort of things, or competitive track of the year, pardon me. Awards which are open to interpretation, open them up to public, absolutely no problem with that, because you can look at a skin and think that one looks best, but you say to someone next to you and they think, no, that one looks best. That's what this is perfect for, what does the community think is the best looking skin? So have community awards open for things that are subjective, so that you eventually come to a consensus of what the most people feel is the best looking skin, because you're not going to have as much bias there because you're simply looking at something which you like the look of. There's no one who can look at you and say, well, actually you're wrong. That's not how this works, Have that along with industry-based awards, so to speak,
peer-reviewed.
Yeah, if we'll go for a fancy term of it, peer-reviewed, fantastic. They can coincide together. There's no world which says that can't happen. But I think, with the nature of Trackmania and its awards, there needs to be a separation in order to have awards that actually mean something. That's the way I look at it.
But just something you mentioned the field, or that feels something. I feel like if you just look at who won it, let's say 2017, 2018, I felt like the people who then got awarded, they didn't really care too much. But this year, I feel like more or less, let's say 75% of the people that won it, they shared it on Twitter. They felt like, I got voted as a competitive mapper of the year. I got voted as player of the year. So even though we might not strongly agree with that, we should not feel correct because we might disagree with someone. I feel like the people actually won it. They are happy about it. So this year, I have had more happy people reaching out to me than people that say, "Oh fuck this shit! Where is this guy? Why is this guy not nominated?" So but maybe that's also something why I haven't any strong suggestion about what should be improved, because nobody has blamed me this year and tried to kill me.
Is that because 75% of people who won an award this year is real?
Or Carl Jr. Or myself.
Riolu and his trophy cabinet is probably gonna get pretty much full at the end of the year. Whatever. Speaking of trophy cabinet, whatever. Do you guys want to get into some predictions and some shots in the dark for potential award winners?
Sure. I listed up 3 potential. I think we can do player of the year, story of the year, and then most improved player of the year. I think if we start with, what is going to be the best movie of the year? What is going to be the best skin? We are like, what the fuck are we doing?
We haven't. It's been 4 months. We haven't really seen all. We have seen a bunch of content, but there still could be some bangers coming out in the next 6 months. So
you have no idea what is coming up. But player of the year, we know the skill level. We can sort of see what way the career of players are heading. Who is going to be the player of the year 2020? I think we can agree with. So let's say that GGeek mentioned Scottie as the best player. I can still mention Scottie as the best player, so we don't have to pick 3 different people just for the sake of it. So let's go with it.
Yeah, we can have common
is Scottie
opinions.
Your player of the year?
Right, I'll just go for the Konami code of Trackmania, the one who has just the cheat for everything. Carl
Don't do
Jr.
it. No, don't.
Basically, if now sorry for the coarse words. Basically, you're going with the basic bitch bet, if I could call it correctly. I would.
Up for losing side bets.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Carl Jr. won't be player of the year now. Just call it. Scottie betted for him. He's
I'm
out.
trying to make it interesting.
He's out.
Well, I'm gonna go on a limit. I'm gonna say Kappa. I feel like he's gonna have potentially the chops to come back and potentially get a new claim the title back in the Grand League in the autumn. And given how fast he's actually been hunting, like some of the Nadeo tracks and stuff like that, he's definitely keeping himself warm. And despite having a bit wrist injuries, I hope he has had a speedy recovery by the time this video has aired. Yeah, I think Kappa would be a pretty strong contender for that, and I'm thinking he's going to be a winner.
Well, we already have now over 5 months passed, so we can already look back at who has done well this year. Carl Jr. won Trackmania Grand League Winter pretty solid fashion. Second at LAS, second at From Zero to Hero. So it would be stupid to not pick Carl Jr. So once we go back to this in December, I'm gonna say Carl Jr. is your player of the year. I'm not gonna be ballsy and stupid here.
Okay,
I'm gonna
fair
try
enough.
to get the point and maybe do the double curse again, Scotty.
I'm the only one willing to take the plunge here. Is that what I'm saying? Is that what I'm guessing?
I mean,
Okay.
taking a punch, you pick a Kappa was, in my eyes, the second best player last year. So it's not like you're
Well, that-
big balls.
It's like taking a slight.
Nobody expected.
It's like taking a slight dip in shallow water. Basically, that's pretty much the equivalent of what I just did. But
So ballsy thing will be like picking Gwen because he's going to be the fastest adapting to a new game. So that will be a ballsy pick, but I don't have the balls with me today.
Scotty.
How?
Hello.
Frost Guardian, if he decides to come back, whatever.
I think also the next one is going to be an obvious one, but what is 2020 going to be remembered for? What is going to be the story of the year?
Well,
Do you have to think about it? Oh,
Yeah.
he's actually going to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one main story which has been on everyone's lips since it got announced in LES and before for some of those people on the inside who knew about it, of course, and that is, of course, the new Trackmania. We've covered it. We're hoping to cover it if it does eventually ever get released. So yeah, I mean, that's. I mean, I don't care how many khakis there are or how many times Mother retires. That is going to be the story of the year.
Yeah, 100%. Once again, I
yeah,
copy.
I agree as well. I agree as well. TM Trackmania 2020 and basically the community, basically the entire shtick around the new game as well, the communication behind it or lack thereof and stuff like that. So yeah, TM 2020 would be definitely the story of the year, no doubt.
Last thing I think we could, I don't know if you have a different views of other categories, but most improved player of the year, that is something I think we can talk about because there are players we already know but can take the step up, like Gwen, Afi. People knew somewhat about him before 2019, but they both got nominated. So who do you guys think is going to be the most improved player of 2020?
I'm going to go on a limb here, right? I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to go
Scotty.
for now, one thing I'm going to focus on is primarily on the tech side of things. One player who's been impressing me, particularly last year and coming through into this year as well, who I think's ready to make his big break, and I swear to God, if he announces he's going inactive, I'm going to beat him up. Mathix. I think Mathix is going to be your next big thing. I think he's shown incredible performances at some of the big events. And I think that he always struggled being in Dutchy's shadow, despite being a player, I would say, at his level. And I think now's his time where he's properly going to show that he is one of the best players in the world. He's been showing online for a great number of times. He's had a top 4, I mean, way back in GWF in 2019, and he performed extremely well. He dominated through Leon Esports and kind of choked a little bit in the final rounds to, I believe, allow Spam, I think it was, through to the grand final, if I remember correctly. But if not, it was a bloodbath from Mathix. It's something that once he's kind of nailed the final part of his game, which I would say is composure, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with and very, very well one to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, well, for me, the pick is a bit different. It's mainly based from what I saw, for instance, during the From Zero to Hero tournaments, and I would say most improved player of the year, even though he was nominated last year, I would say Novice, because he, like, of course, it's kind of like weird for both of you that I'm saying that this is based on one performance, but when we got that grand final, and the step up that Novice did, and being the absolute man, like dropping, for instance, the only sub 102s of the match. That is just something you see probably once in a full moon, if I recall, if I dare say so myself. So I feel like Novice, with the kind of performances that he has put recently, I feel like he's definitely going to be a strong contender. I feel like the Czech player from Team Proxies now would be a winner.
Okay, you're forgetting about the biggest tournament in the game, is the Trackmania Grand League. We already have the 2020 edition taking place, the winter edition of that. We saw one guy qualifying that wasn't nominated for Most Improved Player of the Year last year. That guy is from Switzerland as well as Afi. I pick Janex as the Most Improved Player of the Year. 2020, I think now he gets finally the big stage. Now we can compete against the big players, and I actually think he will do well against the best players. You already see the hours he put into Trackmania just by streaming, so I don't think he will slow down once the new game comes out, once he probably gets some hype behind his stream, once he gets some good numbers. So I think Janex is going to be a man to look after, and if not, I will maybe put Marcin in there, but that is going to be if he's going to be in for the next season of Trackmania Grand League. So I think there is going to be a Trackmania Grand League player winning it, and hopefully deserved as well.
Okay, fair enough.
Do you guys have any other awards we could talk about? Because this was just 3 awards I came up with.
Well, if I can, after talking so much shit about Caster of the Year, I'd like to give a few shout-outs to those who I think have already worked very hard throughout this year, and who I think definitely deserve to be considered for an award going forward. And that is Geek himself, of course, as part of the who's joining me here today. I think Geek's really taken a big step up, not only in the quality of his broadcasts, but as well the amount of work he's put in. Necra certainly deserves another nomination, secondly, for being one of the top French broadcasters, being consistently uploading and giving guys a great experience as viewers in France, of course. Thirdly, I would put Turbo. Again, criminal that he wasn't involved in the first place, and he has put in an inhuman amount of effort throughout this year, casting all manner of cups from top to the very bottom, which I think speaks volumes for the man and what kind of effort he's willing to put in. And in the awards, in the casting scene recently. And what I like so much about this award now is there is more people getting involved, and the fourth spot I think is really up for grabs, and I'm looking forward to seeing who steps up the most. I'll certainly do my best, of course, but I'm looking forward to seeing who steps up the most and shows they really deserve a spot as one of the nominees for Caster of the Year for 2020.
Yeah, I think you should be in there as well. I also think Virtual should be in there as well. But Caster of the Year this year is going to be harder than last year, when basically all big events was covered by Riolo, and therefore he won it. This year you had open up with Trackmania Grand League, that you had so many different streamers. You then have so many different casters. You have me and Scottie, you have Geek, you have Virtual, you have Snapple, you have Turbo, you have Necra. So it's going to be a lot of people now have more of a platform besides their own stream to actually cast events on. So Caster of the Year is certainly going to be a bloodbath. On really looking forward to seeing how the casting scene is going to improve slowly but surely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about Caster of the Year. It's going to be so competitive, and it has already been since the start of 2020, especially with the Trackmania Grand League, which has seen many different people getting their feet wet into Trackmania casting. I mean, we had Virtual, we had myself a little bit later on. You had, for instance, Lutti. For the French viewers, they had Lutti. You had Cyrimix, who was already well known as a caster in his own right, but you had Lutti, who didn't really do that much Trackmania pay-by-play. And then, yeah, it's pretty much basically blown up the barrier to entry to casting, and really open to everybody. It's really been becoming easier than ever to come into casting recently. And yeah, you've got Scottie, you've got Turbo, you've got Virtual, you got of course yourself, Eirik, taking part in as a caster as well.
If I get nominated for Caster of the Year, then it's
bullshit. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, you got memes on. Otherwise, you got myself. You've got Necra. There's basically an entire there is a huge list of people that really could deserve to be, that do deserve to at least be nominated. So yeah, the 4th spot are going to be extremely costly indeed. And for people that I would definitely see as winners, I would say, well, if we're taking international, like outside of English streams, I would say Necra would be in with a shout. Maybe this time it would be his year, since he has stepped up a bunch in both of his casting style and as well as in presentation. And you would also be in there, Scottie, as well, because your casts are always incredibly enjoyable to listen to, and especially the highlight for me for this beginning of the year has been the From Zero to Hero casts with along with Eirik and Kappa, which was really brought an entire new dynamic, which I think we have been missing with Trackmania, with what we discussed in the 2 weeks ago, with Trackmania being the odd man out, relying solely on play-by-play most of the time. And yeah, I would also put Turbo in there as a potential contender. I know people like, okay, GGeek, you stepped up pretty good. You do deserve to be there. I came in really fast. I'm like, isn't this a little bit too fast in my opinion? So I wouldn't put myself in there. I know, like humble, whatever, but humble. Yeah, I would say some people deserve a better shout than other people. Yeah, Turbo has put an insane amount of work, as you said, Scottie, and I feel like maybe he would deserve a spot potentially better than I do, because sometimes I do tend to kind of slap together some of these casts, and there are some casts that I'm not particularly proud of. But yeah, if I do get nominated, that would be I would more than ever grateful for all of you that have made it possible.
It's like a Spider-Man meme. Scottie saying, "You should be nominated."
No, you. No, you
should be nominated. And I'm saying, "I should be nominated." Yeah. Do you have any other potential? I mean,
I feel like we've covered
online event of the year, offline event of the year, LES the rest of the year.
Offline event, that's a bit of a. I think that we're gonna put that on hold due to what's currently happening. Online events, it's always a bit of a tough call, because you don't know what kind of crazy cup is gonna come up in the future that could potentially be the next best thing. Like you've got Centauri Solo Tech coming up.
Kaki 6.
Kaki 6 mid-year edition. It gets an instant win now. I don't really want to tread water. I feel like I covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover, honestly.
Same. Yep. So cancel Trackmania Awards and tune into Eirik Holdal Awards.
Yeah.
Halo.
But yeah, are there? I feel like it's pretty much it for this Trackmania Awards special of the Let's Talk Trackmania podcast. A bit of a different ambiance than usual. We're all kind of tired, it must be said, but 100% tired. But yeah, we'll be back next week, hopefully in tip-top shape, to discuss some more interesting topics on the subject that is our lovely game. And if you want to follow each of us and keep up with what we do on social media, whether we talk about Trackmania or anything else, you can follow Eirik at Eirik Holdal on Twitter. You can follow Paul at TM Scotsman on Twitter, and for myself, it's at TM GGeek on Twitter. And yeah, this is pretty much it. This has been.
Before you say this, what do you say? Speed is light, or Godspeed, people. Next episode is gonna be a banger, because we're gonna have some juicy stuff to discuss. So tune in next Tuesday, because there are gonna be some things to discuss then.
Alrighty then, you heard that. So make sure to tune in next week on June the 2nd for the next episode of Trackmania Awards. Of Let's Talk Trackmania. Okay, there we go. Rebooting. That's GG. It's rebooting. Anyways. That's been Eirik Holdal, that's been Paul Gillies, aka Scottie, and that has been Thomas Mengozi, aka GGeek. This has been episode 3 of Let's Talk Trackmania. See y'all next time. Godspeed, people! See ya!
What do you say?